we are going to switch now to ligatures. We're already half an hour into it. Wow, this is really fun. So I'm going to slide up just a little bit. So ligatures is a concept I took from typography. Being a fan of typography, I was aware of these from a young age when I worked in a print shop and understood this. I used to work with metal type, and I was really felt honored now that I had that opportunity to work with metal type and see how things worked, how physical it was. And the thing that I thought was really fascinating were these ligatures, they're called, where it's two letters that are joined together into a single glyph, they're called. It's a really good way to save space. In the case of typography, there were certain letters that if you set them together, they would actually plug into it and look weird. So they actually built letters that commonly occurred. FFL is one as an example that would be often used in text, and it gave them the ability to control that much more. Now I use these for a little bit different reason. I use it as a way to save space or to give personality. You can play with different combinations. I'm going to show a few of them here. And then we'll draw these out and you can see what I mean. So these are the common ones that I use. So T is a really fun one to work with. So I'm just going to do a double T. You can see it right up actually up here in the header. I used it there just for the fun of it. So double T is the single stroke above and then two strokes below. And what this can do is give you some space savings, and it kind of looks cool. So like that might be really good for the word lettering. TE is another one. I'm going to increase the size a little bit because I'll need it. So let's go a little taller on the vertical. And what I do is I like to tuck these letters in. So technically I think a ligature actually means that the letters are connected. So technically it's maybe not a ligature, but I call it that because I want to. So there's a TE. So I really like, it really feels satisfying to have this sort of tuck inside there. This can also work with, if you end up with a word that has TOT. So let's do my first T. I sort of set the boundaries first. So there's my T's. And then in the middle space, I sort of use the edges of it to do the O. And you can see it's a little bit condensed like above. I guess I was influenced a little bit. So there's TOT. So maybe if you use the word Hottentot, I don't know if everyone would ever do that. Another one is IT, which we use all the time. So let's do that. I like doing the main letter first. So here's IT. You could even do, ITI, have the I on the other side. So you're basically using the dead space of the letters to make use of it and make an interesting combination. Another series of letters that I like to do are L's. So the reason I like L's is because they have a lot of dead space too, even more than a T. So I'll show you if you start with an L. So one that I often do is LE. So see how nicely, just like the TE, it sort of fits nicely. I fit it nicely in there. It's a little bit smaller, but I've maintained the weight so it feels like it's consistent. Actually, the one that I use quite a bit is the LL. So let's build the first L. I'm using my 2-line lettering here. Sometimes when I'm running tight on space, I actually put the L inside there. So it gives me a little bit of horizontal space that I can work with. If I'm getting near the end of a page, this can save, a whole letter. So I mean, compare this. I'll do a traditional LL next to it, and you can see what I mean by the space use. So if I did a traditional L and L next to each other, which in some cases makes sense, notice, look at the difference in space. So here I've used about that much space. Here I've used nearly double the space, probably pretty close to double the space, right? Because I've stacked one inside the other. So that's a real big advantage, is space savings. And finally, another couple, LO. Like that. It's another one. And then LA, I'm going to finish up the L's with LA. Of course, you can do LI as well. So I mean, all these you can play with. What I do with LA is I like to start the letter form on top of the L and then have it come down next to it. So you end up with an interesting, you know, almost like puzzle pieces working together. Maybe more and more true ligature form, you could actually do, if you had the wide A, you could actually start, or the wide L, you could start the A right inside the L and make it a unit. I think a lot of this actually also comes from, for many years I did logo design. And so I was always looking for these ways, how can I kern and tighten these letters so that they become units a little bit more interestingly. So this has always been really, really helpful for me. Another thing that I like to do is use lines under letters. So I've been, if I need to save space, I'll often make the letter shorter and then just put a mark under there. It can work for all the vowels. Actually, any letter it can work for, right? So, and probably the reason I choose the bottom is my concern is if I put it above, it might be seen as an accent of some kind, when I really just intend it to be a way to use a smaller letter and then make use of the space with a filler like that. So, I mean, you can use it with, so if I do an S, it can certainly work there. Or M. Basically what you're doing is you're pushing the letter up to use less vertical space this way, and then filling the difference with the bar. So like that might be next to an O, let's say. I'm using maybe a condensed style. So the space that it's consuming is relatively equal to the O, right? It's maybe a little bit wider. But if I compare that, if I did an M the same size in the same way, you can already see that it's consuming a lot more space. It has to, right? Unless you really push these middle strokes in. So it's a lot of this, what I do is around space saving. So already you can see it's significantly wider than this small M. And then I can fit it with other letters. So really it's dependent on when I get to the point where I think, oh, I'm running out of space, what letter would look good if I use this? And then I'll bring in the underline to kind of set that tone.